Hi everybody, today I thought we'd try something a little bit different. I had a problem that I was working on, and so rather than trying to solve it and just doing it and showing you the results, I figured I'd walk you through the process of some of the workflow I use for playing with textures and designing a 3D model using some pre-built assets, which doesn't require me to have a lot of modeling time put into this because I'm basically reusing some materials from existing packages. So some of these assets that I'm looking at now are from the Fantasy Village, it's called, from Epic Games. I'd have to go and find the exact thing. I don't have it quite at the moment, but I'm reusing some of these assets. So these walls, these wooden blocks, and what I'm trying to build is a kind of like a self-contained set of walls here. And on top of it, I would like to have a nice wood, kind of matching this wood, like overlay on top of this, and so that's what I'm going to be building. So I'm just going to go through this and talk while I'm working on this. So the first thing I'm going to do is try to align this particular item right in the center, and then we're going to stretch things out. And I'm just trying to eyeball this about as good as I can. All right, that doesn't look too bad. All right. So I got that. Let's go back to perspective mode. So now if I drop this down inside here. So just for right now, I'm going to put the base material, or what do they call it? Pretty sure there's like a default material that's on here. Let's see if I can find this. Default material? That's maybe the one that I already have on there. Yeah, I'm just going to have to go with that for right now. Okay, so generally speaking, this is what it's going to look like. I obviously don't want it poking out the sides like that. So I'm going to shrink this down just a bit on the X and the Y. So I bet... Oh, I wonder if these are tied together. So if I go to 6.9, yeah. Okay, yeah, that shrank that down enough on all sides, so it's not sticking in there. So now all I need is a material to stick on top of there. So let me show you. In this set that we have, there is a wooden material right here. If I look at this material, let's pull this up. Actually, I can switch over here. So if I pull this material up, you'll see that they actually have multiple materials tied together here. So you kind of have this pattern down here. You have this pattern. Kind of these boards seem a little bit brighter. The boards up here have that gray, sort of more muted color. And I'm not really sure which one I would like the best. But what I did was I exported this texture. And I pulled the texture into Gimp, which is GNU Image Manipulation Program. And I'm no expert at Gimp, but what I can do is show you some quick and dirty things that I do know how to do, so that I can make a texture that is a bit more, not as with such variety of patterns. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to use this top pattern right here. So this section, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the capture, the rectangular capture, and I'm going to just highlight this area right here. And go up just a bit. Great. So now I've captured that. Next, I'm going to copy. And then I'm going to paste. So now that I've pasted that, I can move this material up here and put it right on top where the other one is. Okay? So I just copied that and moved it up here. I'm going to do that a few more times. So paste. I'll drag this down here now. So you can see I'm just kind of overwriting what was there before. I'm going to paste one more time. And we're going to go down here. Awesome. So now I have a texture, but it obviously shows you that there are some repeating patterns, and I'd like to have a little bit more variation than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save this, just so I can undo it if need be. And I'm going to try and use the clone tool. So let's see if I can find the clone tool. It's the one that looks like a stamp. Here it is, this one right here. Yeah, it kind of looks like a stamp. So I'm gonna pick this. The circle shows you the size. And what you do is you pick an area that you would like to clone, and you hold the control key down and left click. So I'm going to do that right here. Then wherever I draw, it's going to slowly start copying, maybe. That's kind of weird. Why isn't this copying? Is it maybe because it's like a different layer? Let's see. This is the joy, the absolute joy of working in programs that you're really not any good at. All right, I'm going to try this again real quick. So let me, maybe I say merge down. All right, well, there you go. Okay, so now let's go back and try this. Okay, so we're going to go back to the clone tool. I pick my size, aspect ratio, force, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to pick, let's say, this area right here, and then it doesn't work. Okay, so now that I have this clone tool in place, what I'm going to do is try to break up the pattern here so that it doesn't look so repetitive. And I'm going to do that by lowering the resetting things a bit. And so for example, this part right here, I'm just going to kind of blend that out. So that now, we're not seeing this repeating pattern over and over and over. In this example right here, I'm actually going to copy this. So I put my copy area there, and then I'm going to put some of that down here, right? This will help sort of break up some of the obvious repetition in certain areas. I'm then going to copy this darker area here, and I'm going to break up this pattern in here a little bit. So just sort of blending away, trying to get things not to look quite as repetitive. So this real dark area right here, 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 and also it's copied over here. I need to break that up because that's looking very, very crazy. So what I can do is, let's see, I'm going to copy like this lighter region up here, and I'm going to try to come in and fade away some of this. Now, what I think I'm going to do, I think hardness is how... But I think overall, this kind of broke things up. It may have made it look a little less realistic, but at least it's not going to be tiling so much. So I'm going to save this. So I'm going to save my project. I'm going to go ahead and export this as a PNG file. Okay. I'll choose all the defaults. It's exporting out. And so now I have my PNG file, which is great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back over. I am going to pull up my PNG in Explorer that I just created, and then I'm going to drag it in to here. And that's not what I wanted to do. It actually overwrote. Yeah, that wasn't what I wanted to do. That's pretty funny. It overwrote the one that was there before. Yeah, that's not exactly what I was hoping to have done, because that's going to mess up the other existing PNGs. Let's see what this does. I'm going to drag in the original one. Okay, that's the original. Okay, I'm going to do this and call it the... I'm going to rename this so that I don't have issues. I'm just going to call this one like wood floor. And that way it will actually import as a new asset rather than overwriting the existing. Okay, auto saving, awesome. Okay. Drag in my new asset. Importing. All right. Very good. Okay, so now here is my new asset. So I'm going to go mark that for add. Okay. I don't have a material created for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a material that will allow us to scale that texture. So material, we'll just call it M. I'm going to call it floor, even though we're actually using this on a outside ceiling area. So I guess it could be the floor of and switch back down. So this is my material. I'm going to grab the texture that we created. I'm going to drag it in here. Okay. So now we're going to create our material. I am going to take the RGB. I'm going to put it in the base color. Now this won't have any normal at this point, and it won't have any roughness, or if you were to create a texture in other programs, sometimes you will get all these. So just for to make things easy, I'm going to take this and just set it to some defaults. So for metallic, this is not a metallic instance. So a value of 1 here would mean that it is metallic. This is fully not metallic, it's wood. So we're just going to leave it at 0. For the roughness, so this tells you this value, I'm also going to set it to a default value. So a value of 0 means that it is perfectly smooth polished. And that's obviously not what wood looks like. Wood also isn't perfectly flat. So if I were to change this to 1, it'll recompile, and you'll see that that's like perfectly dull. We're going to say this is probably like in the 0.8 region. So it's not fully rough, but it's not fully flat either. And therefore it will reflect some light. That's what that value means. So the only other thing that we have here is if you wanted to tile this, I will show you how we can do some tiling. So I'm going to save this. Yeah. And then I'm going to go back up to our, so let me switch back, go back here. So here is our material that we have. And if I click this, so it's highlighted, and then if I go back to here, select the cube that I created earlier, and I'm going to choose this. We're going to set that as our default material. Now, all of a sudden, there you go. So that actually is starting to look pretty good, right? It's not, it's definitely not perfect, but at the same time, I'm not going for ultra realism. I'm going for something that looks fairly good. And as far as I'm concerned, that's fairly good. So now looking at this, in my game, I'm going to be looking at this from sort of an upper level like this. So you're going to be looking down, and that looks pretty good to me. It's going to look like a wooden ceiling, and I'm going to be happy with that. I'm actually going to skip the, well, maybe I'll go ahead and show you how to scale a material. It's very simple to do, and this will allow you to adjust the UV scaling on this material should you want to shrink it or grow it. So let me switch back to the material, and I will show you how we do that. Okay. So here's our material. Now right here, you have a pin coming in for the UVs. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a texture coordinate. And I'm going to be real honest with you. As you've seen in some of my other videos, there are so many things to the Unreal Engine that trying to be an expert in all of them is impossible. And if you are, you'd probably be working at Epic Games. That being said, knowing how to do things and move around, sometimes you just know how to do it, and that's what it is. So in this case, I've seen this enough times that I know this is how you scale coordinates, but I'm definitely no expert on UV mapping, etc. I do know that UVs is the coordinate system used for wrapping textures around objects. And if you take this texture coordinate, if you drop it down in here, okay, all of a sudden, let me make this a cube. It's a little more representative. So now you see there's a certain scale to this. If I change the UV tiling on this coordinate right here, and if I change it to 0.5, you're going to see that it recompiles. And let me change this one to 0.5. And what you notice is, in this case, they almost look the same, but it's actually not. These are wider now. You can see that because of our material, we've stretched out the texture that's wrapping on top of this, and it is going to be larger. Now, let's say I go even smaller. Let's do 0.1. Okay, we'll do 0.1. Now you can see a dramatic difference that it is scaling substantially. And at 0.1, now it looks like we only have 2 boards all the way across. Now, here's the cool part. This is how we can affect this. So, if I take the texture coordinate, I'm going to set it back to our defaults here. And in the value coming out of here, if I divide this, okay? Well, you could actually do it a couple ways. You could multiply it or you could divide it. Let's go ahead and do a multiply in this case. And if you multiply by a value less than 1, you will see that it has the same effect, right? So plug this pin in here. Now the question is, right now it's multiplying by 0.1. So let me just adjust this down to 0.3. And you'll see we're kind of getting that same behavior where the scale is changing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to drag this out. We're going to create a constant out of it. I'm then going to right click on here. And you'll see where I'm going with this. I'm going to convert it to a parameter, and I'm going to call it scale. Okay. Very good. And I'm going to set a default value to 1. So by default, the value is 1. So we're going to get a full representation. It's going to take the full width and height of the texture and wrap it on top of that object. And the slider min and max will be, we'll just leave these alone. I'm not going to worry about what they can change it to. So now that we have this, right, I'm gonna save these changes. Okay. I'm going to go back to, I'm going to browse back to my material. Let me switch back here. Here's our material, and now this has a parameter. In order to take advantage of that, we need to create a material instance, which I've done. I'm going to open this up, switch back. Okay. Now, here is our material instance. This instance now, we can adjust the scale on the instance, and we can do it in real time. So what I can do is I can shrink this down. So the smaller the value, the larger the boards are going to get. The greater the value over 1, the smaller the boards are going to get. Okay? So that's how we're now scaling in real time using a material instance our texture, and here's how you use that. So instead of placing the material directly on, instead of placing that material directly on there, I'm going to take this material instance and I'm going to apply it to this. I'm going to apply it to the mesh that we have here. And now that we have that, I can adjust our material instance. Let me pull this up over here real easily. Make this a little bit smaller. So you can see here's my material, and now I can adjust this in real time, right? And whatever size that I want. So maybe I don't want it to look quite as small as it was earlier. I think at the default value of, here's the default, right? But I think I'd like those boards to be a little bit bigger so that it looks like, you know, it's just not quite as busy. So there you go. That is, I've created a texture. I took an existing texture, I modified it, I broke up all of the, you know, repetitive parts of it. I then brought it into the Unreal Engine. I converted it into a material, and then I applied some scaling parameters to that material using the texture coordinates and also using a multiply node in the material to create this super awesome, wrong thing, create this super awesome material down here, right? We defaulted the material to a base color. Its metallic is 0. Its roughness is 0.8. The material itself is a, it's on the surface domain and it's opaque. Okay? And that's about it. I mean, I think that's a really quick and easy way to get something that meets your needs, but you didn't really have to come up with the raw, you know, from scratch, I should say. So we took an existing material, we converted it into something that we needed, and now I have this full structure which is meeting my needs. And again, this actually, oh, it actually looks like my structure is still a little large. So let me go back here. It looks like that reverted it. Oh, you know what? That reverted itself from earlier. I hit the undo button. And I remember something changed and I couldn't figure out what it was. And now I know that that's what it was. That's pretty funny. All right. I hope you enjoyed this quick video today. We did something really simple. Created a material, did some scaling on it, and we used the GNU image editor. And I hope you enjoyed it. I'm trying to grow my channel, so if you could please subscribe, that would help me a lot. And I will be producing more videos just like this. If you have any recommendations for me, please let me know in the comments. Thanks again and have a great day.